Next one's from Jerome Jones, and the subject is mixing things up. Conan and Disco. It's well known that you are absolute legends of wrestling and know the ins and outs of the business. My question is, at what point does a company have to realize they can't keep pushing the same people to the top? For instance, Roman Reigns and WWE and guys like Moxley and Jericho and AEW, and that's from Jerome Jones. Well,
okay,
I don't
first
think...
of all,
Go ahead. You go.
Well, first of all, I don't know how you even put Roman in the conversation.
Right.
Because it's obviously working.
Yeah,
right?
what do you do? Stop pushing him? Is that what you want to do? I mean, bro, it took him like 8-10 years to get to where he's at right now. And you knew he was a stud when he started, because when I heard that Anoy, last name, I knew the pedigree and the bloodline. And not only that, bro, this is a guy that played at Georgia Tech, like all ACC. The guy was a stud. You know what I'm saying? He had that professionalism and that discipline that you get from high level football. And what do you now? I don't think Moxley needs a title, but what are you going to do with him? Bury him? What are you going to do with Jericho? Jericho's been putting people over lately, basically, and it looks like he wants to give the rub, the full rub to Sammy Guevara now.
I bet you the Uso family would be cool to watch football with.
Oh, 1,000%.
Like if they have a family, the whole family's here watching. Right. Yeah, they're huge football fans, right? Like Jimmy Uso, they're all good football players. So.
And but these guys like Jericho and Moxley, they have the name value that sponsors, know, and PR stuff that you do. People don't know who Britt is and Orange Cassidy is and guys like that yet. One day they may. And that's why there's a lot of value in having Sting, because everybody knows Sting, from TV executives to sponsors to anything in between. But what would you do? What do you disagree with this guy that they should be pushing Roman or Jericho or Moxley?
No. I think this guy is factually incorrect in his premise here. He says, at what point does a company have to realize they can't keep pushing the same people to the top? Bro, WWE right now is trying to push Cody Rhodes and LA Knight to the top. Like, they're not just like pushing. They're in an active, process of trying to get Cody Rhodes and LA Knight into the next level. So they're not like they're trying. It's just very difficult. Sometimes it takes a long. That's one thing. Is like people kind of want the instant gratification, but the fans have kind of like always, when a guy gets pushed to the top too fast, they turn on him a lot quicker. And something. So like the fact that they're doing a very slow roll with Cody and a very slow roll with LA Knight. I mean, history has shown that's kind of the formula. Stone Cold Steve Austin did not get over overnight. Neither did The Rock. If you look if you go back and read weekly television from Stone Cold, The Rock, bro, they did a lot of for months and months and months and months. It took some time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like, okay, all of a sudden now they're top guys. It was like you kind of notice this guy's getting over. Let's put him in front of the people for a promo. Let's give him a strong mid-card guy to work with. Everybody says he's being wasted in an angle with Miz, like LA Knight. Like, what are you talking about? Miz is doing great TV right now.
He's the perfect guy to get him over.
Perfect guy, because he's a good talker. They're the same size. They both look good. They both dress well. They both look like stars out there. It's like he's good TV. Bro, did you see what he did on Monday night? That was hysterical.
Yeah.
Joe, did you see what he did on Monday night with the Miz?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I saw the clip. Yeah,
I don't know who thought of that.
Did he borrow the Invisible Man gimmick from you?
Yeah, just like you said, oh, John Cena, you can't see him. So that was very clever. So, all right, next one's from Richard Potter, and the subject is barbershop questions. Hey guys, I recently became a Patreon subscriber and it's worth every penny. Thank you. My question is, how'd you guys keep your hair on point back in WCW? Were there haircutters in the back, or did you guys hit up different barbershops around the country? I know this may be a weird question, but what can I say? I've always been addicted to the fade. How did that get in here, Joe?
I didn't notice that last line.
Richard Potter.
Like I said, I gave him enough rope to hang himself with.
Well, yep, he's
Well, that seems to be the excuse for not reading the emails.
Next one's from Brad Zawacki, and the subject is legendary storylines. Hey guys, I've been fortunate to watch legendary storylines since the early 80s. The most notable for me in no particular order. War to settle the score, which is Hogan versus Piper tied in the lead up to WrestleMania 1. The Bloodline story. NWO formation, the blurring the lines of reality. Dusting his battles with the Four Horsemen. What storylines are most memorable to you? Um, my, one of the biggest heated, like as far back as I can remember, for me, was the Tommy Rich versus Buzz Sawyer feud in Atlanta. Bro, it was just bloody. Both of them looked like they could fight. They would bleed. They both cut great promos. Tommy Rich was an excellent promo. Southerner, fire, let's get fire.
Great fire.
And Buzz Sawyer was like a mean, right? Yeah, man. And then, bro, they would just like go. I mean, they drew, but the Omni would sell out. And they had an angle for like months, and it was like that. That was great TV. The Bloodline story, obviously, because it's been such in the new age of storytelling with the backstage segments and stuff for things, it's been one of the best ones ever. Obviously Austin and Vince McMahon, Austin Brett, I liked a lot. There's been tons. What about you, Conan?
Yeah, I like all the ones the guy mentioned and all the ones you mentioned. I also liked a modern one. I liked a lot the CM Punk versus the establishment angle. Those promos with him and Hunter and Vince were classic.
Right.
I was a big fan of the storyline in ECW of when supposedly Tommy Dreamer was blinded and then he really wasn't. And then he came.
Sandman was blinded. Sandman was blind.
Sandman, yeah.
He faked it,
yeah. I like that.
In the spring into the summer of '98 in WWE, when they were starting to turn the tide against WCW, there was these two feuds going on. One was Austin and Foley, okay, and the other one was Undertaker and Kane. And so from like April until September, those guys all wrestled in different combinations where they'd wrestle each other. There's a tag match, Hell in the Cell, whatever. And I just thought that was really good, the way they were all kind of interlocked and they kept switching. And now it'll be a tag, and Austin's going to go over Taker.
They did something very intelligent too during all that. And bro, it's funny how people would criticize Russo for this, but they did. This was good TV. They did an angle where Kane was going to be wrestling Austin in a first blood match. And everybody's like, well, how in the world is Austin going to win this? Kane's covered from head to toe in closed mask. How's he going to make him bleed? Right. So it was a good thing. But in the end, Undertaker came out and hit Kane because Kane said this was the angle. Okay. Kane was covered from head to toe. So there's no way he could bleed. He had the mask. You'd have to cut him in the back of the head or something, right? Kane said that if he lost, he would set himself on fire.
Right.
Okay? Now that's ridiculous, but it's like, it was just, with JR selling it, it's like you believed it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the gimmick was that Undertaker, came out and even though he was in an angle with Kane at the time, he nailed Austin with the chair and it busted Austin open and Austin lost the match. Right. So Undertaker, Kane, and Paul Bearer come out. They cut the promo and Undertaker basically says, I wasn't going to let so all the problems we had, I'm not going to let my brother burn himself alive because he'd do it. He's crazy, So, right? Austin comes out and said, time out. This is ridiculous. The stipulation of the match was which person could give the other one first blood. He goes, it wasn't Kane that gave me first blood. It was the Undertaker. I want my rematch. Right. Yep. So it's and basically Kane had to accept because he was right. And then literally the next night, in a very logical way of storytelling, they got to Austin dropped the belt the one night and came back and won it the next night because the story made perfect sense. And that's those are the angles you remember, is when the stuff makes good sense and was very logical and stuff. So yeah, I don't do you remember that angle, Conan?
Yeah.
And everything you're talking about there kind of took place to the middle to the end of June. And Undertaker and Austin didn't wrestle until SummerSlam in August. So there was 2 more months of them, going back and forth and finding more reasons to hate each other and all that.
You're gonna like this next. Oh, what about you, Conan? did you mention anything you liked? Old angles?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
you
said
talked
the
to
CM
yeah,
Punk versus Establishment.
right,
Yeah,
right, right,
CM
right,
Punk
yeah.
versus Establishment. I like the Hogan Macho feud when they broke up because he had his hand on a little bit. Um, I actually like the Eddie Ray Dom angle because when they first told me about it, I was like, how are they even going to make this work? And they
Right.
did. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as good as the eye for an eye. The eye for an eye between Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins. I
Right.
mean, nothing will ever
Right.
be that good. Or
Right.
when
Captivating.
Kid Romeo had the idea to have a feud over glow sticks, nothing will ever
Right.
top that. But these came close. Remember
Plus,
that?
I got to mention Raven and Dreamer that went on for,
Of course you
2-3
do.
years at
CCW.
first.
Yeah, of course you
Oh,
do, Joe.
that
So
story's still going.
you want to promote the podcast? You and Raven, the Raven Effect
Yeah,
podcast?
Raven Effect with me, Raven, and Rich Bikini every Monday. Listen to it on Spreaker. We get 10% more.
So this is an interesting email. We got an email from Dr. Luther.
How about
And
that?
the subject is Dr. Luther from Jericho's boy from AEW. Says that's what it says.
That's
so.
him.
Subject to CM Punk. Hey guys, first off, fans of both your wrestling career and podcast, would now not be the best time to bring CM Punk back to WWE? It's red hot at the moment. He shows up at pay-per-view. Surely that would be money. I like Disco more than Lance Storm, and that's from Cal. We already talked about this, Dr. Luther, and I would say absolutely not. Me and Joe actually have a $100 bet on whether or not CM Punk makes it back into AEW at WWE. Next one is from. This is interesting. Wait, I missed this one already. Hang on. All right, from Jesse James. And the subject is Karrion Kross World Title Run. Greetings, K100 Fan Bam Shakalaka Ding Dong.
Okay, wait 1 second. This ain't Sha-Na-Na or Grease.
If you can, I'd like your input on the confusing way that Karrion Kross has been booked since return to WWE. Initially, Hunter brings him on and throws him straight into the main event picture, placing an hourglass in front of the Bloodline, teasing a potential world title feud. The next week after that, Black Roses get delivered to Sami Zayn with the written message that says TikTok. It was clear to everyone watching the program between Kross and the Bloodline was in the works for the very near future. After losing to Drew Crown Jewel, however, Kross more or less is booked a twist in the wind compared to the big plans that they clearly had in store for him. My question is why? Whose decision was this and why they decided to plummet his stock the way that they clearly did? No one can deny that his position in the roster now is night and day difference between the way that they were booking him upon the first few weeks of his return. For me, this is very disappointing. Also, what do you think the chances are that Kross will be in a world title program anytime soon? Thanks and take care. My opinion has always been that when they brought Kross in initially to the main roster and he had that helmet on and was just a shell of his previous character with no girl or anything, they diluted him. So when they brought him back to the main roster after he got fired and they brought him back, I don't think the fans are buying him being in the world title picture. Now, if he'd gone straight from NXT and be the NXT champion and gone straight into that angle with Drew and what's his name and been the same character with the bald head and the same presentation, this could have gone way differently. Because he was brought in a lot stronger. But then he came back with hair. He looked different. Then during this period of time, I think Charlotte got hurt briefly, so she was out of the picture. So they had to put the brakes on that. And then recently, he was supposed to be in an angle with Bray right before Bray went away sick and never came back. And God rest his soul, he ended up dying. But that was the plan. So Kross has been his gimmick is the tarot cards. He's been dealt some pretty cards. So it's about the best way I could describe it. What do you think, Conan?
Yeah, you're right, bro. Vince buried him with the mask, which at the time Disco liked. I thought it was trash.
I thought if they were going to push him as a gladiator and he was just going to win all the time, then they were like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But
and then he lost to Jeff Hardy in his first match.
Right. So
right. Lost to Hardy, who I love and deserves everything good in life. But, bro, that's not the way you present him. But here's the thing, bro. He had the bad luck that for whatever reason, and Drew's a really good worker, his Drew didn't click, it was kind of quick. Whatever he did with Rey Mysterio, if you coughed, you missed it. The AJ didn't really get any traction. I mean, he's got the goods. He's a star, but sometimes it takes time. He's only like one great storyline away from being hot. Look how long
Right.
it took for Sammy to go through the communist thing and all that he went through, you know, with the hippie, the hipster and all that. Sheamus wallowed around before they hit it big. Sometimes it takes a little time.
Seth Rollins, too, was kind of
Yeah,
like in this
right.
weird,
Right.
like I'm an architect, and it's kind of
Right.
like boring. And all of a sudden,
Right. For a while, we
you-
didn't even like him. Remember, we thought he was
Right.
whack. Yeah.
Mhm.
and you click as a character, you start doing some good TV, and just all of a
Right.
sudden you're over again. You know,
Right.
bro, this business is strange. It's like, you know, you're at the mercy of the booking, you know, but sometimes you can get over regardless of the booking, but you have to get to a level where you're kind of untouchable, which is like the Miz. Bro, he's been
And
there.
then
How long has the Miz been there?
sometimes,
How many years has the Miz been there? And shows
Well,
how untouchable he is. Like he's immune to any burial. He'll just come
If it's
right
not-
back. Right, yeah.
If it's not 20
very
years,
few people
it's
have that
very close.
ability.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and
And-
if I had my way, which I don't, but I'd still like to see Kross come into the Rumble and do the Diesel or Kane move where he comes in and he just dominates and throws out like 8 to 10 guys. Like that'll get people to focus on him. Like, oh, he's for real, you know. But we'll see.